Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
I worked in the casino business for 16 years. Started in the kitchens washing dishes and cleaning up after the late night crowd, but I worked my way up. After about 10 years of grinding, I finally made it to casino host. That's when you know you've made it in this business. You get to take care of the high roller players, make sure they're comfortable, keep them happy so they keep spending their money. The casino even helped pay for my college degree. After all those years of loyal service, they figured I deserved it. I stayed for a couple more years even after graduating, but eventually I found a better opportunity elsewhere. Left on good terms with everyone. That's important in this business. You never know when you'll need those connections. 2 years later, I'm finally getting the promotion I've been working toward at my new job. Figured I'd celebrate where it all started. So I went back to my old casino for a few drinks. The service girls remembered me and sent over some congratulations drinks. I made sure to tip everyone generously. I know how hard they work and how much they depend on those tips. But here's the thing about working as a host for so many years. The players remember you too, and not all of them are pleasant memories. There's this one Karen. She's been coming to the casino for years, and I had the misfortune of being her regular host. This woman treats everyone like dirt, but she spends millions every year, so management puts up with her behavior. I've seen her banned multiple times for harassing other players, but she always comes back. The worst incident happened about 3 years ago. She threw one of those giant margaritas, the kind meant for 4 people to share, off a balcony, hit another player square in the head, and gave her a concussion. You'd think that would be enough to ban her permanently, right? Wrong. She got banned for a year, settled out of court, and was back to her old tricks as soon as her ban was lifted. Despite doing everything she ever asked of me exactly as she requested, she constantly complained about the service, always threatened to never come back because she never won, and everyone was supposedly terrible to her. Yet there she was, week after week, losing money and making everyone's life miserable. I'm sitting at the bar, enjoying my drink and catching up with some old colleagues when I see her walking toward me. My heart sinks. I know this isn't going to end well. She approached me and asked why she hadn't seen me in a while. I tried to be polite and told her I was just out having a few drinks, checking out my old stomping grounds. I started to ask how she'd been, but she cut me off. She rolled her eyes at me like I was the most boring person on the planet. I've seen that look 1,000 times before. Then her whole attitude changed. Her face transformed into that look rich people get when they're about to talk down to someone they consider beneath them. She told me that since I wasn't doing anything, I should go cash out her chips for her. She complained that the women behind the counter wouldn't pay her out since she was over the cash out limit, and she'd left her license upstairs in the room they gave her. I never understood why people don't carry identification in a casino. This happens way too often. There's a threshold that cashiers can't exceed without proper identification. It's mainly for internal auditing purposes. Nothing to do with taxes unless you're talking about jackpots and promotional winners. We try to make things easier for players, but some people live to make others' lives difficult. I started to tell her I would help, but I really didn't want to. She immediately cut me off and told me to shut up and do what she told me. Or was I too stupid to follow simple instructions? Then she threatened to find out where I worked and not only get me fired, but make sure I'd be living in the gutter for the rest of my life. It takes everything I have not to snap at her right there. I bite my tongue and start thinking about how I'm going to get back at this woman. A plan starts forming in my mind. I told her as calmly as I could that I'd take care of it if she gave me everything she had. She seemed pleased that she had control over me. Then she made sure to tell me not to tip myself, saying she knew I made more than minimum wage there, so it wasn't like I needed it or anything. Under normal circumstances, I wouldn't even consider tipping myself from a client's chips, even from the ones I got along with. But this woman has pushed me past my breaking point. She dumps thousands of dollars worth of chips on the bar counter. I estimate roughly $10,000 total. She doesn't even care that some of the $100 chips roll off onto the floor and into the bartender's area. The bartender, Chris, kindly helps me gather them up while shaking his head at her behavior. She walks away without another word, and I'm left standing there shaking with fury. But when I calm down, my plan becomes clearer. I start gathering all the chips into a couple of racks that were conveniently sitting nearby. Chris notices I'm still upset from the whole exchange and asks if I'm okay. I look at him with what I can only describe as a malicious smile spreading across my face. I told him it was going to be a good night for the staff and handed him 3 of the $100 chips. His eyes light up and he encourages me to go through with whatever I'm planning. And that's exactly what I did. I went around the casino handing out chips to every employee I encountered. The cocktail waitresses, the dealers, the security guards, the cleaning staff, everyone got a piece of Karen's money. I had to go to the cashiers to break up a couple of $1,000 chips, and I gave each of them a $100 chip too. In less than an hour, I had given away nearly $10,000. Then I simply left the casino and went home. The next morning, I got a call from one of my old work buddies. He could barely contain his laughter when he told me about the storm Karen threw when she found out what happened to her money. Apparently, she completely lost it. She punched the executive host in the face and is now permanently banned from the casino and blacklisted from several others. On top of that, she's facing assault charges. Here's the beautiful part about my plan. On the security cameras, it looked exactly like what happened. She gave me her chips. She forgot to tell me where or when to meet her to get them back. Since I was just another casino patron at that point, not an employee, those chips legally amounted to abandoned cash. If you're careless enough to leave money behind, or in Karen's case, give it away without clear instructions, then that money doesn't belong to anyone. It's finders keepers. Even if I had stayed and gotten caught or questioned, the worst they could have done was ask for the money back. If I refused, it would have been a 3-day ban and an immediate escort out of the casino. That's it. I know $10,000 is probably a drop in the bucket to someone like Karen, but the blow to her ego is worth so much more. She finally got what she deserved after years of treating people like garbage. The fact that she is now banned from multiple casinos and facing criminal charges is just icing on the cake. I work the night shift at the local factory. Grocery shopping during off-peak hours has become my routine. I usually hit the store around 10 a.m. when it's quieter and I can grab what I need without dealing with crowds. My sister recently had a baby, and I've been helping her out by picking up diapers and formula whenever I'm out shopping. That's what led me to be in the baby aisle that day, completely unaware of the chaos about to unfold. I was going about my business picking up groceries when out of nowhere this woman appears right beside me, giving me the stink eye like I did something wrong. I could feel the tension coming from her. She was probably in her 40s, wearing a tennis outfit that looked expensive and had that look of someone who was used to getting their way. I tried my best to ignore her, thinking she was just having a bad day or something, but no, that wasn't enough for her. She decides to speak up and rudely demands that I move out of her way. I was taken aback because, to be honest, I wasn't blocking anything. There was plenty of space for her to go around. But you know how these entitled people are? They just want to cause trouble for no reason. I politely apologized and told her she could go ahead, thinking that would be enough. But of course, that's not what she wanted. She starts rambling about how I'm intentionally blocking her path and that I must be doing it on purpose because I'm rude. Rude? Me? I laughed at the absurdity of it all. She gets even more angry and starts yelling about how I'm laughing at her and that millennials think they own everything. She accuses me of standing there on purpose because I'm inconsiderate and rude. I try to defuse the situation by telling her I didn't mean to upset her and suggesting we both just go about our shopping peacefully. You'd think that would be enough, right? But oh no, she was not about to back down. She takes it as a personal challenge and starts raising her voice, drawing attention to our little encounter. She shouts that I'm being condescending and that she knows exactly what I'm doing and won't stand for it. Now, I'm not one to get into unnecessary conflicts, so I decide to walk away and continue my shopping. But she was not about to let me off the hook that easily. She follows me around, still hurling insults and accusing me of being disrespectful. I roll my eyes at this point. It's like dealing with a toddler throwing a tantrum over a candy bar. I try my best to keep my cool and not engage with her nonsense. But here's the kicker. She sees me looking at some baby products, and that's when she really loses it. She starts ranting about what I'm doing looking at baby stuff and calls me a creep. She screams that people like me shouldn't be allowed near children. Now, I'm a calm and patient person, but this was crossing the line. I tell her she's way out of line, and that I have as much right to be there as anyone else. I mention that I have a niece who I adore and tell her not to make baseless accusations. But of course, she wouldn't back down. She starts attracting even more attention, and people around us are just staring like we're some kind of reality TV show. All over nothing. Thankfully, a store employee notices the commotion and steps in to mediate. I explain the situation and the employee handles it quite professionally, asking her to calm down and reminding her that we're all just trying to shop peacefully. It was like she finally realized that her antics were getting her nowhere, and she begrudgingly walks away. I thought it was over, but little did I know that her craziness was just getting started. Not long after, she had the entire police force pointing their guns at her in a shocking scene. After my encounter with her, I decide to discreetly keep an eye on her from a distance, hoping she'll just move on and leave the store. And that's when I spot this young mom, probably in her early 20s, with her adorable baby boy fast asleep in his stroller. The little one looked like an angel, all snug in his blanket. But then, out of nowhere, enters the same woman from earlier. She walks up to the young mother with a completely different demeanor and gushes about what a precious little baby he is, asking if she can play with him. The young mother responds politely, explaining that he's sleeping and she doesn't want him to wake up just yet, but she simply won't take no for an answer. She keeps insisting that he won't mind a little playtime and that she's great with babies. The mother stands her ground, repeating that he needs his rest and she doesn't want to disturb him. Well, you know how these entitled people are, they don't understand the word no. She starts getting all huffy and puffy, and before we know it, she's shouting at the top of her lungs. The poor baby wakes up crying his little eyes out, and his mama rushes to pick him up, trying to soothe him. The woman yells that the baby wants to play and accuses the mother of being selfish for keeping him cooped up like that. The young mother pleads with her to leave them alone, explaining that she woke him up and now he's upset. But guess what? She, out of nowhere, reaches into the stroller, picks up the baby before his mother does, and starts pacing away towards the exit gate. It was like a scene from a dramatic movie. The mother starts screaming for help, shouting that it's her baby and begging people to stop her. The mother is losing it at this point, screaming and running behind her, begging people to stop her. We all rush to help, but she is relentless, making her way to the parking lot with the baby in her arms. Just when we think things can't get any crazier, a good Samaritan steps in and blocks her path, preventing her from going any further. The good Samaritan tells her that she needs to give the baby back to his mother right now, but she responds by insisting that it isn't her baby and that he doesn't even look like her. She claims she's saving him from this woman. Meanwhile, the police clearly have been called, and in no time multiple officers are on the scene, guns drawn. It's like a showdown and all of us bystanders are just watching in shock. But here's the twist. Turns out that little baby boy is none other than the grandson of the police chief himself. Talk about a plot twist. Seeing the entire police force pointing their guns at her, she finally snaps back to reality. She must have realized the mess she caused and got herself into. The chief's grandson of all people. She hands the baby over to one of the female officers, who hands him back to his mother while she still mutters nonsense. Even while being arrested, she keeps insisting that the baby can't possibly be the mother's because he doesn't look like her at all. She claims she was doing him a favor by getting him away from that strange woman. One of the officers calmly tells her she needs to calm down and put her hands behind her back. The police chief arrives on the scene and he looks furious, to say the least. I feel a bit of satisfaction watching her squirm in her entitled outrage. The chief approaches his crying daughter, who's still shaken and hugging her baby tightly, and assures her that everything is going to be okay. He asks if she's okay and if the baby is hurt. His daughter, still shaken, tells him that the woman just took the baby and grabbed him right out of his stroller. The officers take her into custody, and that's when we all finally breathe a sigh of relief. I mean, seriously, what was she thinking? Trying to steal a baby and then claiming the mom wasn't his real mom? That's some next level entitled behavior. The police chief personally thanks the Good Samaritan who stopped her, and all of us witnesses get interviewed by the officers, telling them what happened. It was like we were part of a real-life crime investigation or something. After what felt like an eternity, the chief comes over to thank all of us personally for helping and being there for his daughter and her baby. He tells everyone that he wants to thank everyone who stepped up that day and that our quick thinking prevented something terrible from happening to his family. Thankfully, the young mother and her baby are doing fine now, and they've become sort of local celebrities. Everyone in the neighborhood is rallying around them, offering support and love. In the days following the incident and when the legal proceedings began, she was charged with a series of offenses, including kidnapping, assault, and endangering the welfare of a child. The charges carried severe penalties, and it became apparent that her actions would have lifelong repercussions. She was sentenced to 10 years in prison along with probation upon her release. The court also imposed a restraining order preventing her from ever being near the mother and her baby again. So, there you have it. Everything that happened on the craziest day and the craziest encounter I have ever been a part of. I'm glad my encounter with that woman prior to the kidnapping incident didn't take a worse turn. Who knows what she might have done to me if I were to escalate things. I'm glad that we'll never know. I was 18 when I started university studying to become a doctor. My mom had been out of work since I was 15, so even with my scholarship, I needed a job to cover living expenses. I found work at a big chain bookstore in our local mall. The pay was basically minimum wage, but I loved books, and it fit my personality perfectly. My mom struggled financially and taught me the value of hard work. I'd seen her stress over bills and keep meals so I could eat. When I got this job, I was determined to prove myself. I worked every shift I could get, learned the inventory system inside and out, and always volunteered to help customers find exactly what they needed. 6 months in, I got promoted to night manager. I was responsible for managing the night staff, which included mostly students like me and 2 women in their late 20s who both had kids to support. These women worked hard every night to put food on their tables. I respected them for that. Then corporate sent down a memo saying we weren't making enough book sales and weren't trying hard enough. This was right when electronic readers were becoming popular, so obviously physical book sales had dropped everywhere. Their solution was to send us a new store manager to replace our current one, who would be demoted to a minor management role. 3 days later, she walked in. A short woman who I quickly learned hated men with a passion. During our shift change meeting, she introduced herself to everyone, then asked all the managers to stay behind. The 4 of us remained. Me as night manager, the day manager, the stock manager, and our previous store manager. Karen looked directly at me with disgust and demanded to know what I was still doing there. I explained that I was the night manager. She looked at the others for confirmation, clearly not believing someone my age could hold that position. The day manager confirmed that I'd been night manager for 6 months and was really good at it. Karen stared at me like I was something she'd stepped in, then launched into her speech about how things were going to change around here. From day one, she was nothing but passive-aggressive toward me and a few others. Everyone in the store noticed it and developed a burning dislike for her. 6 months later, Karen called all the managers in for a meeting. She announced the store would be closing in 1 week for 2 months for renovations. I immediately asked why such short notice, pointing out that the night staff all worked shift to shift and a week wasn't enough time for them to find other work. Karen snapped back that they didn't matter and were easily replaceable. I told her that 2 of them had families to feed and couldn't survive without this income. The other managers nodded in agreement. We all knew these women's situations. Karen backed down slightly and said we'd pay them a base wage for 1 month, then hire them as painters during the renovation. I knew my neighbor was a painter and made twice what we earned per hour. I asked if she was going to pay them painter wages and if she would train them properly. Karen accused me of being a smart aleck. Maybe I deserved that one, but I was fighting for my co-workers' livelihoods. Karen said we'd meet tomorrow to discuss her final decision. Then she scheduled the meeting for an hour and a half before my shift started, right during one of my final exams. I explained that I had a final exam at that time and asked if we could reschedule. An evil grin spread across her face as she told me that if I didn't make it tomorrow, I shouldn't bother coming in ever again. I had to choose between my education and my job. I chose my future and took my exam. A week later, I found out what happened to my co-workers. 3 night shift workers were let go with no pay and told to reapply when the store reopened. Everyone who had been friendly with me was told not to come back. This included both young mothers who desperately needed their jobs. I was furious. Messing with me was one thing, but destroying my co-workers' lives crossed every line. These women had kids to feed, and Karen had thrown them away like garbage just to spite me. I immediately called head office to complain. They kept me on hold, transferred me from department to department, and completely ignored my concerns. After hours of getting nowhere, I'd had enough. I wrote a detailed report to my country's Business Control Council, filing a complaint against the entire corporation for unfair dismissal and bad business practices. Then I emailed the corporation's Human Resources Department, explaining exactly what I'd done and why. My email was simple. I told them to fix the situation and rehire everyone who was wrongfully terminated, or I'd pursue my complaint against the corporation. However, if they made this right, I'd change my complaint to target just the store manager instead of the entire company. 3 days later, I got a response. They'd rented a smaller temporary store at great expense due to the short time frame. Everyone who'd been fired was rehired with back pay. Karen was suspended without pay pending investigation. I kept my promise and edited my complaint to focus on Karen specifically rather than the corporation. The investigation was thorough. Karen lost her job permanently with no possibility of a reference after 20 years with the company. Having a 20-year gap in her resume with no reference made it nearly impossible for her to find decent work. Last week I saw her working as a packer at my local supermarket, which reminded me of this whole situation. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.